There is a point in every seeker's journey when effort is no longer hidden, when the silent struggles that were once unseen by the world are suddenly acknowledged by a greater presence. The universe does not measure the grandeur of your achievements. It does not weigh the crowns you wear or the recognition you gather. It looks at the weight of your intention, the steadiness of your persistence, the sincerity behind each small step. Heaven smiles not when you have conquered mountains in the eyes of men, but when you have conquered even a single weakness that no one else witnessed but you. This recognition is subtle. It is not written on stone tablets, nor proclaimed in loud voices. It is a whisper felt in the depths of your being, a shift in the atmosphere around you, a quiet reassurance that your effort is seen, your striving is not in vain, and your discipline has been honored. In this moment, the hours you spent resisting your own impulses, the countless times you chose truth over convenience, the silent tears you shed when no one else knew of your burden, all of these form a fragrance that rises beyond the material, a fragrance that is recognized not by human senses but by the divine. It is not perfection that opens the gates of recognition, it is authenticity. Even when you stumble, even when you fall, even when your steps are slow and heavy, if they are honest, if they are sincere, then they are not wasted. Each effort becomes a signal, a pulse that vibrates beyond time, reaching a place where effort is never lost. And in that recognition, something begins to change, not outside first, but within. You feel lighter, not because the path has grown easier, but because you realize you are not walking unseen. This moment is not a reward. It is not a prize handed down to those who win some outer contest. It is the divine acknowledgement of inner struggle, the smile that descends upon those who dared to remain faithful when no one was watching, the blessing given to those who kept their flame alive even in the winds of doubt. It is the quiet nod of eternity toward a soul that has learned that greatness is not in being applauded, but in being steadfast. There is a mystery in surrender that the restless mind often resists. For the mind equates surrender with weakness. It associates yielding with defeat. It imagines that letting go is the same as losing. Yet the path of the soul reveals something entirely different. Surrender is not the collapse of will, but the alignment of will, not the abandonment of strength, but the redirection of strength, not an act of resignation, but an act of profound trust. It is a doorway that leads away from the illusions of control and opens into the vast expanse where divine order flows without obstruction. To live in constant resistance is to live in exhaustion. Every day becomes a battle against what is. Every moment an attempt to reshape reality according to the narrow vision of personal desire. The more one pushes, the more tension builds, until the inner space is filled with nothing but struggle. But when surrender is discovered, when the grip is loosened and the heart allows itself to rest in trust, a current begins to carry the soul in ways that no amount of force could ever achieve. It is here that heaven smiles, for the soul has ceased fighting against the very stream it was meant to follow. Surrender does not mean passivity. It does not mean to abandon effort or to sit idly waiting for destiny to unfold. It means to bring forth your effort with sincerity and then to release the outcome, to give your heart fully to the task before you while trusting that the result belongs not to you but to something greater. It is to plant seeds with devotion and water them with care, yet not demand that the harvest appear on your timeline. The hidden power lies in this balance: action without clinging, striving without tension, dedication without fear. There is also a healing that comes with surrender. Much of the pain humans carry arises from the burden of trying to control the uncontrollable. Plans fail, people change, life shifts in ways that cannot be predicted, and in resisting these changes, the spirit becomes heavy. But in surrender, one learns to bow gracefully to what arrives, to allow the lessons hidden within events to reveal themselves, and to stop fighting the tides of existence. The heart softens, the mind clears, and the soul finds strength not in domination but in acceptance. This does not weaken a person, it strengthens them, for their power is no longer dependent on circumstances but rooted in the unshakable ground of trust. Surrender is also the ultimate act of humility. It is to acknowledge that there exists a wisdom far beyond the scope of the individual mind. A wisdom that weaves all lives, all events, all destinies into a tapestry too vast to be comprehended in its entirety. To surrender is to admit that our perspective is partial, that our vision is limited, and that clinging to our small plans blinds us from the greater design. The one who surrenders steps into harmony with this higher wisdom, and their path begins to flow with a rhythm that feels guided, supported, and blessed. There are moments in life when surrender feels like being stripped, débaire, when everything that one tried to hold onto slips through the fingers. In such times, surrender reveals itself not as a choice, but as the only way forward. To fight against loss, to resist endings, to rage against uncertainty, these are natural responses, but they only deepen the wound. Yet when surrender is embraced, when the heart bows even in its brokenness, something unexpected is born. Out of loss comes clarity, out of endings comes renewal, out of uncertainty comes freedom. The hidden power is that surrender does not diminish you, it transforms you into someone capable of carrying more light. Surrender also requires courage. It is not the path of the faint-hearted to release the illusion of control, to stop insisting that life must conform to personal expectation. It is a daring act to let go, for it feels as though one is stepping into emptiness. But those who have walked this path discover that the emptiness is not barren. It is spacious, alive, filled with currents that guide and sustain. The hands that release their grip discover that they are upheld by something unseen. The heart that lets go of its armor discovers it is surrounded by protection it never imagined. When the soul surrenders, it does not shrink, it expands. It expands beyond fear, beyond doubt, beyond the restless demand to always know what comes next. It rests in the quiet knowing that even in uncertainty, there is order. Even in chaos, there is meaning. Even in endings, there are beginnings hidden in silence. This is the hidden power of surrender. It is not visible to those who cling, but it reveals itself to those who dare to release. And in this release, heaven smiles, for the soul has learned to stop resisting the embrace of the divine. It has opened itself to be carried by the river rather than struggle against its flow. It has chosen trust over fear, humility over pride, peace over turmoil. Such a soul shines quietly, not because it has conquered the world, but because it has allowed itself to be carried by the one who governs all things without struggle and without error. There is a rare and quiet strength that emerges when the inner world and the outer world begin to move as one. To live in inner consistency is to no longer be divided within yourself, no longer speaking one way while thinking another, no longer acting outwardly while inwardly doubting or resisting. This state is not loud, not demanding attention, not decorated with masks or disguises. It is subtle, refined and beautiful because it reveals a human being who is whole, who is not fractured by contradictions, who walks in the same rhythm with their thoughts, their words, and their deeds. The absence of this consistency is what creates so much suffering. A person who believes one thing yet lives in a way that contradicts that belief feels a constant inner conflict. They may project confidence outwardly, but inside there is unease. They may appear calm, yet within there is turmoil. They may promise themselves discipline, yet live in indulgence. This gap between the outer image and the inner truth erodes peace, weakens energy, and creates a restlessness that cannot be silenced by any amount of distraction. It is like a river split into many channels, losing strength as it disperses. But when inner consistency is cultivated, when everything flows into one direction, the power becomes like a single stream, focused, steady, unshakable. Consistency begins with honesty, not the kind of honesty that is spoken outwardly to impress others, but the honesty one keeps with oneself in the quiet spaces of reflection. It means to stop pretending, to stop hiding behind excuses, to stop deceiving yourself about who you are and what you are doing. It requires the courage to face your own contradictions, the willingness to admit where you fall short, and the discipline to align yourself again and again. This honesty may sting at first, but it is the foundation upon which all harmony is built. Without it, the soul remains divided, but with it, the journey of wholeness truly begins. Inner consistency is also born of small, repeated choices. It is not achieved through grand declarations or dramatic acts, but through the daily alignment of intention and action. To wake up and live according to the values you hold dear, to speak words that match the truth of your heart, to keep promises made not only to others, but also to yourself. In these small acts lies the beauty of discipline, for consistency is not about perfection, but about returning to the path each time you wander. It is like a musician tuning their instrument. Slight adjustments are made each day so that the melody of life remains pure and harmonious. There is also a beauty in the stability that consistency brings. The person who is consistent radiates trust. Others feel it without needing explanation. Their presence carries a weight, not because of power or authority, but because there is no contradiction in them. They are the same when watched and when unseen, the same in speech and in silence, the same in promise and in delivery. This stability inspires respect, for it reveals a spirit that has disciplined itself against the fragmentation that scatters so many lives. Such a person becomes like a mountain, silent yet strong, unmoved by storms because their foundation lies within. But consistency is not rigidity. It does not mean to become stubborn, unwilling to grow, or closed to learning. True consistency is flexible because it is based not on ego, but on principle. It allows for change, but only in ways that bring greater alignment with truth. It evolves without betraying itself, adapts without losing integrity, bends without breaking. This balance of steadiness and adaptability creates a natural grace, a quiet beauty that reveals itself not in perfection, but in authenticity. The beauty of inner consistency also lies in the peace it brings. When thought, word, and action are in harmony, there is no wasted energy. There is no need to remember false stories, no burden of pretending, no heaviness of living two lives. The mind rests because it is no longer at war with itself. The heart rests because it no longer carries hidden guilt. The spirit rests because it knows it is aligned. Out of this rest arises clarity, focus, and strength, qualities that allow the soul to walk its path with dignity and serenity. To reach this state is not easy. It requires daily vigilance, for the world constantly tempts you into contradiction. Tempts you to say what is convenient rather than what is true, to choose what is easy rather than what is right, to appear strong outwardly while neglecting the work inwardly. But the one who values inner consistency refuses these shortcuts. They understand that every compromise creates a crack in the foundation, and that even small cracks weaken the whole. So they choose the slower path, the harder path, the quieter path, the path that demands integrity in every step. And when such a person walks, their beauty is undeniable. Not the beauty of appearance or surface charm, but the beauty of wholeness, the beauty of a life that is one single note, steady and pure, rather than a discordant mixture of contradictions. The beauty of a soul that shines not because it has achieved everything, but because it has refused to betray itself. This is the beauty of inner consistency. It is not loud, not adorned, not fragile. It is strong, lasting, and deeply alive, a light that shines quietly and touches all who encounter it. There are many victories that human beings pursue in this world. Victories over opponents, victories in competition, victories in wealth, power, or status. Yet all of these are fleeting, temporary, and bound by the conditions of circumstance. They depend on who is watching, on what resources are available, on the shifting tides of fortune. But there is one victory that is eternal, one victory that cannot be taken away by failure, time, or even death. It is the quiet victory over the self, the mastery of one's own impulses, fears, and illusions. This victory does not arrive with trumpets or celebrations. No one announces it, no crowd applauds it, no trophies are awarded. It is silent, invisible to the eyes of the world, but deeply felt in the heart of the one who attains it. It is quiet because it takes place in the unseen battlefield, the inner space where the greatest struggles of life are fought. The enemy is not outside, it is within. It is the part of yourself that clings to comfort, that resists discipline, that gives into anger, fear, greed, or despair. To overcome this enemy is to step into a freedom that no outer conquest can provide. The path to this quiet victory is long, for the self is cunning. It hides behind excuses, justifications, and stories that make surrender appear reasonable. It whispers, "You can do it tomorrow. This small indulgence will not matter. You deserve a break from discipline. Others are not living this way, so why should you?" It creates an endless stream of reasons to remain the same, to avoid growth, to stay asleep in the comfort of distraction. And unless vigilance is maintained, these whispers shape your life, keeping you bound in habits that weaken your spirit. To win the victory over the self requires first recognizing that the greatest opponent is not the world, not other people, not circumstances. It is the lack of mastery within. This recognition shifts everything. Instead of blaming others, you begin to look inward. Instead of asking why the world is unfair, you ask why you allow yourself to remain unprepared. Instead of resenting obstacles, you see them as mirrors, showing you where you have yet to gain control. With this shift, the battle becomes clearer, for you no longer fight shadows outside, you confront the root within. The quiet victory begins in small moments. It is not a single decisive battle but a series of choices made in the ordinary rhythms of life. Choosing to rise when the body wishes to remain in bed. Choosing silence when the ego wishes to prove itself. Choosing patience when anger demands expression. Choosing truth when deception seems easier. These choices may appear small, but each one is a battle won. And slowly, through repetition, the self that once ruled you begins to yield, the impulses that once dominated begin to weaken, and discipline begins to take root. What makes this victory beautiful is its humility. There is no need to announce it, for its strength is felt in presence, not in proclamation. Others may never know the depth of your struggles, the temptations you resisted, the fears you faced, but they will sense the steadiness in your being, the calm in your presence, the clarity in your words. For the one who has won over the self no longer needs to impress, no longer needs validation, no longer lives from insecurity. Their authority arises not from dominance but from harmony, not from force but from balance. Another mark of this victory is freedom. When the self is no longer in control, you are no longer enslaved to its cravings. You are free to act with clarity rather than compulsion. Free to choose the harder path because it aligns with your values. Free to remain unmoved by insult, temptation, or fear because your center is no longer shaken by external noise. This freedom is not the absence of responsibility, but the presence of power. The power to choose consciously rather than to be dragged unconsciously by habit. This quiet victory also brings peace. For as long as the self dominates, there is constant conflict within. One part of you desires growth while another resists it. One part of you knows the truth while another avoids it. One part of you aspires to discipline while another clings to comfort. This inner division creates endless tension, restlessness, and guilt. But when the higher self wins, the battle subsides. There is a quiet harmony in which all parts of your being move in one direction. This peace is not dependent on circumstance, for it arises from unity within. The journey to this victory is not easy, and it is never truly complete, for the self is persistent and will return again and again, seeking cracks in your armor, waiting for moments of weakness. But each time you overcome, you grow stronger. Each time you choose discipline over indulgence, clarity over confusion, strength over weakness, you fortify your spirit. Over time, the battles become fewer, the victories more stable, the presence more unshakable. And while the struggle never fully ends, the one who is vigilant walks with a dignity and strength that cannot be taken away. The beauty of this victory is that it belongs to no one else. No external force can grant it to you, and no external force can take it from you. It is yours alone, earned in the silence of your choices, forged in the discipline of your actions, and reflected in the serenity of your presence. It may never be recognized by the world, but it is known by heaven, known by your own soul, and it is enough. This is why it is the greatest of all victories, the victory of mastery over the self, the quiet triumph that makes all other triumphs meaningful. When the chosen ones rise into their true calling, it is never through noise or outward display, but through the quiet victories that transform the inner life. Heaven does not smile because you became flawless, but because you finally chose to walk the path of sincerity, discipline, and inner alignment. Every step of awareness, every act of surrender, every choice to remain consistent, every triumph over the restless self, every offering of purity from the heart, all of these weave together to create a life that radiates with authenticity and strength. It is in this wholeness that joy is born, and it is in this wholeness that the divine smiles. Not at your perfection, but at your persistence, your willingness to rise again, and your courage to live truthfully in a world that constantly tempts you away from yourself.